KFC SuperCoaches, it is the Game Day podcast, round 19. We've got Dave Campbell, a very special guest on the show today, and essentially you basically just demanded to be on the show this week after that massive score that you cracked out last weekend.
Absolutely, mate. You know me. If I get a good score, that's when you'll see me on the show. If I'm not having a good run, then I'm absent.
Quick on the text, that's for sure. Quick on the gloat, definitely. Biggest issue facing your team this week? It's a tough one because we've got obviously the final bye round of the year, plus a number of guys who got picked for Origin that we weren't necessarily expecting. It's a tough week. What's the biggest issue for you?
My biggest issue is I've got 11 at the moment, so I can get to 13 with trades. But the biggest issue is trying not to trade out some of those keepers that I don't want to lose. I want to have them for the long run. So I want to get to 13, but trying not to tear my team apart in the process. That's my challenge.
Yeah, it's exactly the same for me. I've got 10. I did have 14 at one stage. And then with the Origin selections and injuries and whatever else, I'm down to 10 before trades. I think I'm just going to go to 12. I think I'm going to have to play short. One player, it's not the end of the world, particularly when next week you've got guys like Munster, Latrell Mitchell the week afterwards, David Fafita, all these Origin guys coming back that you want to get into your team. So I think you need to look more towards next week as opposed to just getting a number for the sake of it on the park this round. Send in your questions and comments. I'm on YouTube. Dave's all over Facebook. We're going to pimp your teams. Send them through, guys. Your zingers as well, of course. If you send through an awesome zinger, which is just a sledge for me or Dave or anyone really, you'll get the Zinger of the Week thing pop up on the screen. Dave, have you got anything coming through there on Facey?
A couple of questions. So the first one's from Nick. He's looking to bring in a fullback. He's wondering, is it Walsh or Kennedy?
Look, not Reece Walsh would definitely not be going for him, given that he's suspended. And Kennedy is a guy who I'm looking at this week, definitely. Is at a pretty good price. But then I also I could go Jareen Buller to him, but then Buller's playing this week. I know he's going to lose 60k, but I, to be honest, don't see why I would waste a trade there. But Kennedy looks like one of the better purchases for this week. He's
definitely in the most purchased player category. I see he's cropping up a lot. I think everyone thinks the matchup between the Sharks and the Tigers is very juicy, considering what the Tigers put up last week. So I can see why people are doing it. But I wonder about bringing in someone like that if you're just going to possibly trade him out next week.
Couple of zingers coming through on YouTube. His thanks for streaming from the KFC drive-through. I should do that one day. I've got plenty of vouchers sitting around at home as well. Paddy's saying, I have Gagai. Should I sell him this week? It looks like he's back in round 21, I believe, is the story with him. So, look, I think he is a keeper till the end of the season. If you can hold him, I would. But I can certainly see why you would sell to get players on the park for this week and next week, which is pretty tough too.
Yeah, I can see that as well. I guess a word of caution around trades, though, as well. I know I'm running really low. I've seen some people who only have like 5 or 6 trades left. That is not many, considering how many rounds we have left to the season. So those kinds of trades, I can see the benefit, but I think it really comes down to how many you have left in the bank.
A lot of people are asking for these KFC vouchers, which I'm certainly not willing to give away. They're expiring soon, actually. I might have to use them for lunch today. Anything else on Facebook?
People asking, is it a good week to use some trades this week to nuff a couple of people out and start getting set for the run home?
Yeah, look, I've considered it. Certainly, I want to end up with enough who I can swing between prop and back row. So I've been looking at a few guys this week. Ideally, I'd want a guy who actually plays this round and then so you get some points for him this week, and then he doesn't play again for the rest of the season. But then that is risky in itself, because if they're on the fringe of the team and there are a couple of injuries or a few restings, then they'll come into your team and stuff up your AE. I think I'm going to wait until next week to start nothing. Having said that, I also believe that the most popular purchase this week, Tyrone Munro, is essentially enough. I don't think he plays again for the rest of the year, but he should get a good score this weekend.
Yeah, I've brought one person in last week, and only last week because last week was the first week of the year where I hit that situation where I had too many reserves. I honestly couldn't figure who to leave out, and it was really kind of riding your luck, hoping you pick the right person. So when I hit that part of the season, I kind of go, all right, maybe now I have a few too many players. I can start to really try and nuff a couple of people out to upgrade to guns elsewhere. So I don't think it's too early, but you don't want to go too many at once.
Obviously a huge game coming up tonight. Sharkies v the Tigers. Very SuperCoach relevant. Let's do the burning issues. So both these teams are unaffected by Origin. No Nico named in Origin, which is huge for SuperCoach, obviously. No Stefano Udakamanu named for Origin, which is not as big, but is still quite popular from the start of the year. And I'm sure there are a lot of decent teams who are waiting for him and hoping that he'd be an extra number this weekend, which has happened. So Nico Hines, 97% of the top 10% of SuperCoaches have him either as VC or C. Which is it for you this week?
Look, I think he's the best option in my team, certainly. So I think I'll just be straight captain on him. We saw what the Tigers dished up last week, unleashing Nico on him in a largely an unaffected Origin side. I think he could go massive again. And to be honest, the straight captain worked for me last week. I'm happy to double down.
Yeah, look, I'm probably not going to have 13 players, so it's a genuine two bites at the cherry for me. So VC is the obvious option on Nico, and then I'll captain a safe guy, probably Jermaine Hopgood, who will get released from Origin camp to play for the Eels. Britton Nikora, very popular this week. I own him. A couple of tries on the weekend. I like this trade.
Yeah, he's been fabulous. He just seems he keeps finding the try line. He keeps banging out some big scores, but he's doing it consistently. And again, you're seeing a lot of people jumping on the Sharks this week, given what the Tigers dished up against the Cowboys. If you don't have him already, I think it's a no-brainer to go him. He's just such a safe bet this week of all weeks.
Speaking of safe bets, Ronaldo Mulitalo is actually one of the safer guys going around at centre wing. Even though he's not a particularly safe player in actual rugby league, his consistency for SuperCoach is basically off the charts, and it's almost unmatched in that position. So I think he's another great buy this week, particularly with that good matchup against the West Tigers tonight.
Yeah, definitely. His output's just been phenomenal. The Sharks love going to his side, and he's certainly capitalising. I put him in the same boat as Nikora, that either of them or both of them, depending on how you're going, getting them in is an absolute way to bag points this week.
There's some sledges coming in for us. How about the boring clothing? 50 Shades of Grey. Hey, this is my code. This is my code T-shirt. This one. I know you'd be impressed with that, Dave.
I love Code. Code is part of the family.
It's part of the News Corp family, exactly. Croker to Mulitalo. I think that's a good trade. Oh, actually, no. Croker's playing this week. I don't know why you'd sell Croker.
No, there's another more KFC sledges for you on Facebook as well, mate. People wondering if you're homesick today because you've eaten too much KFC.
That's not true. I am still sick, but I'm just actually off today. I've got the day off because I'm working Saturday, so I had to get a day off during the week, and it happened to be today. So, but the show goes on. I put in for SuperCoaches on my day off. That's what I do.
Man of the people.
Exactly. Finally, from tonight's game, Jareen Buller, popular sell. Look, I know he's going to start leaking cash, and it's going to be a lot of money. I just want the extra number this week, and then he becomes Munster next round.
Yeah, I don't understand. I imagine people are selling it's more of a head-to-head thing as opposed to an overall thing. But I don't understand people who sell someone who is playing this round. You take everyone you can get. No one's really going to have a full team. It's one of those trades I can't get behind. He's been solid. Yes, it's the Sharks. Yes, the Tigers haven't been great, but you take every point you can get in these bye rounds.
Friday night's big one, SuperCoach relevant. The Dragons, our Dragons, Dave, versus the Raiders. Let's do Friday night footy. Right, so we've got no Corey Horsburgh, of course. He is out due to Origin, so a lot of SuperCoaches are looking and scrambling to cover him.
Yeah, it was one of those ones, wasn't it, where great that he's gotten the opportunity at Origin level, but when he plays so well for us through some of the other bye rounds this year, just a kick in the guts to lose him from a SuperCoach perspective. And the question is, obviously he's been playing so well, do you hold him for the run home, or do you now punt him to bring in someone who's actually going to be on the field this round?
Yeah, and speaking of guys who are going to be on the field, you've got two guys in his team who are really popular purchases this week. Hudson Young, obviously dropped from Origin, and Joe Tapine as well. What are your thoughts on those two?
Tapine's been great. He's been really consistent. I've had him for, I think I actually had him from the start of the year. So I've been really happy with his output. But it just seems to be a bit of a juggernaut for the Raiders in the forward pack, and we've seen that the last couple of years. They keep pumping out these forwards that get big points, big minutes, and those two guys are absolutely no exception.
There could be some pretty significant late changes. Let's do late mail. Are you a Sean Johnson owner, Dave? And there is some chat that he could be out this week due to the birth of his second child. We'll know if he gets on the plane or not, so we should know with a fair bit of notice.
I'm not an owner. He's one of those guys I've kind of looked at getting in from time to time this season, because obviously he's having a bit of a renaissance, is SJ. But the number of kind of unexpected outs for this buy round, I just don't know why we buy plan, really. It just always seems to backfire. So I'm really feeling for the SJ owners if he doesn't end up on that plane.
One thing I want to point out for late mail as well is you got Ryan Madison playing 5'8" this week. So presumably another score, let's say around the high 40s, 50s mark. Then he will drop in price to about 550 or 560K for next week. At that price, I think he could be a bit of a bargain.
Yeah, if you're looking to beef up your pack, the output's always been great. Obviously, there's been concerns with Matto over the years around concussions and head knocks and things like that. But as long as he can keep his head out of mischief, he's always a solid player for any SuperCoach team.
Got some questions coming through. Is JMK a sell? That's Jeremy Marshall-King. Now, he has been named. They play very late in the round, but he is in doubt with a shoulder injury. So I'd wait a little bit and see what Wayne Bennett says. Is usually very straight up and down with his 24-hour cuts. So you should know 24 hours before whether JMK will take the field or not. If he plays, he's a hold. If not, I think you could sell. But who do you sell to? I think the best guys in that position are playing Origin in Harry Grant, and then a fair way under that, you've got Damien Cook.
Yeah, there's actually, it's not even just there. There's actually a number of positions that are just a bit of a wasteland because either the star players are on the bye or they're playing Origin, and then there's just no one left. Hooker's one, halves are another. Even the fullback spot really is, someone like Kennedy is your best bet in there, and that's the reality of this bye structure now. It can be real rocks or diamonds depending on who's in Origin and who's also on the bye.
Right, time for my favourite segment of the show. It's Guilty Pleasures. Right, this is the player that you shouldn't pick, but your heart is telling you to go there. Who is it for you this week?
Oh, it's Tohu Harris again. I've had him in about twice. I think he's been in and out of my team twice this year. Obviously, he had a bit of a bad run with injuries. But, he's playing again. He always has a fairly strong output. He'd be a great number this week for the bye and a great reserve in the second row to take me home. I'm just terrified that I'll bring him in and then he'll do his ankle or something in the 5th minute like he did the last 2 times.
Yeah, he's got injured for me twice this year, and I still own him. I still keep going back to the well. For me, it's Tyrone Munro. Very good on debut. Got the try assist and a try. Is the most popular purchase this week, but I think he is enough. So that will leave me quite short at centre wing if I do pick up some injuries. Really only got 5 guys who I can play in that position. I'm still thinking I'm going to do it anyway because I liked what I saw on debut. Doesn't have the work rate of other wingers, but he certainly has a bit of pizzazz and more of like a Nathan Merritt style of winger. So, look, a lot of attacking upside, but not the base.
Yeah, I like the look of him as well as a purely as a number for this week, who'll then just hopefully disappear. Won't be an AE nightmare going forward. I think there's definite upside to getting him in at obviously a basement price. If you're lucky, you can downgrade someone to him and start building some bank. So we can look at getting guys like Cleary back over the coming weeks.
Yep, plenty of questions and comments coming through. We've got thoughts on Peachy, Billy Smith and Buller for Ponga, Fafita and Munro. Well, Ponga and Fafita don't play this week. So, not those, but I would do Munro.
Yeah, I don't know about... Surely any trades you're making this week are hopefully trying to get you an extra number so that you can get a decent score this week and hopefully hold position if you're an overall player. I don't know about bringing in a couple of guys who definitely aren't playing because they're on the bye.
One of the big questions in Supercoach right now is the time for cheapies over or is it the time for nuffs? Let's do cheapie of the week. Obviously, number one on this list is Tyrone Munro, and I think we've spoken about him enough. So we'll go down to Valence Tafare, who, look, the issue for him is that Brenko Lee had that spot locked in. Then he went and got injured. Now he's playing Queensland Cup. So it looks like Valence Tafare's job security is actually pretty solid. And while Tafare has a lot of deficiencies in his game, one thing that he's great at is Supercoach. He's a tackle buster, relatively high work rate, can score a try. So Supercoach-wise, I mean, he could even be a top 17 player on a lot of weeks in the run home.
Yeah, he's been really solid. I guess my main concern is his coach, is Wayne Bennett. And while he's been solid and performing really well from a Supercoach perspective, it's his first season, and we know that Wayne is someone who likes to manage the workload, particularly of players in their debut season. I just think that job security is an issue, not because of performance, but because Wayne could simply pull the rug out and go, look, he's played 8 matches. we need to send him out for a rest, and we've got Brenko sitting there ready to roll back in.
Yeah, he is actually on the record saying Tafare will play 10 games this year. So, he's getting relatively close to that. So we'll wait and see what happens. Nuffs, we've probably spoken about Nuffs enough. So let's talk about Cope's captains. So as I mentioned, Nicho Hynes is either VC or C in 97% of teams. So I think there's no reason doing an anti-pod of Nicho Hynes. Having missed Origin, coming up against the Tigers, I think you have to lock him in. And then it's just whether you go VC or C. For me, I won't have 13 players, so it's going to be VC, and then I get a free crack at the loophole. I get a genuine 2 cracks at the captaincy.
Yeah, I think the two there, Hynes and Hopgood, they're kind of the 2 main options. Hynes is obviously your big ceiling; he can get you the big score, and Hopgood is your safe fallback option. So I absolutely don't mind, the VC Hynes with the safe option on Hopgood if Hynes doesn't pan out. But you look at kind of the matchups he's got this week, and you wouldn't want to not have Hynes as an option. You'd just be watching through your fingers if you don't have him.
Absolutely. Let's do some questions till the end of the show. Is Fodawaker a pod for the run home after Origin? He's got a lot to like about him, Supercoach-wise, but you look at that pack and there's Fafita and there's Tino in that team already who take up big minutes and a lot of work. So that's what I'm not liking for him. I think I would probably prefer to go someone like Hudson Young this week at a decent price.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Titans have those big names in their forward pack, and those big names demand minutes. You're setting yourself up for a bit of heartbreak there, I think, if you're looking elsewhere within the pack because of that.
Yep, and Nicker are in a similar price bracket as well.
Yep.
Question from Nathan is asking, is Hudson Young a keeper for the rest of the year? I don't think he quite is, but he's a decent guy to get you through this week and then see what happens. You probably end up carrying him as an 18th or 19th and 20th man for the run home.
Yeah, he's definitely a good number to have this week, and not a bad fill-in if one of your main starters ends up going down. If you can upgrade him to someone else, that's great, but I wouldn't have any issues with having him kind of sitting somewhere in my side in case of emergency.
And just finally, anything coming through on Facebook there, Dave? Hit us with a couple of questions.
Yeah, so I've got a few people kind of, they're starting to think about, Cleary and Latrell, and wondering if they do a double downgrade this week and then use their third trade to bring one of those boys in preparation for them returning. Is it too soon to do that, or is that good, foundation work for the run home?
First of all, I like the double downgrade to free up money for next week, but Latrell has a bye next week, so don't be going early on Latrell. Plus, he's coming back from a calf injury. I want to see him play at least once, maybe twice, before I bring him into my team. And then you've got Nathan Cleary coming back from a hamstring injury. Yes, the chat is that he returns next week, but it's still far from locked in. I wouldn't be getting those guys until next week, but I do like the double cheapie to free up the cash.
Definitely. Jonathan's asking thoughts on Haas to Nickera.
Look, Haas is back in round 21, I believe it is. I think you hold Haas. You should be able to have enough backup in that position to hold Haas for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's one of those ones you probably want Haas back. So unless you're going to have enough trades to pull that off, it's not something that you probably want to entertain. Jason says you should trade your KFC vouchers in for cough drops.
Yeah, I know. I probably should. A couple of butter menthols, definitely. We can give that. I reckon that we'll end the show there with a zinger of the week there. Big thanks to Dave for coming on and gloating about how well your team did last week. Go the Dragons this weekend, and we'll catch you for the Teams podcast at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. See you then.